Welcome to Our Journey to Christ podcast with your hosts, Nikki Cottom and Katie Spencer. Join them as they discuss difficult conversations, hope, joy, identity, expansion, faith, trust, belonging, and healing. Hello. Today, Katie and I are excited to talk about an interesting topic, to talk about ways that understanding who we are in a way that's actually calculatable can be beneficial for diving into discovering more about who you are and honoring yourself. So, Katie, what are we going to talk about today?
Nikki, thanks. I'm so excited. We are going to talk about human design. So, I don't know if you've ever heard that term, but human design is actually connected to our star charts. So, you calculate your human design by being able to, you need three things. You need to know the day that you were born, preferably the time, the more accurate, the better, and the location in which you were born. And so, this is a personality type test that, unlike all the other ones that are subjective, meaning that you answer questions depending upon what you think, this is all you need to know is the exact time and moment and space that you entered into this earth, and it will spell out your whole natal chart that gives you with astrology who you are.
Yes. And I'm excited for this topic, A, because it's kind of out there, but B, because it's so accurate. It's almost scary how accurate it is. And yeah, I want to share a little bit about my background finding human design. And this is kind of interesting. So all growing up, I would hear about the zodiacs and you hear about, well, if you're a Capricorn, you should do this. If you're, and all of these things, right? So I would read some of those articles and thinking, oh, well, this is what my horoscope says. And so therefore I should follow it. But every time I would read one of those just out of curiosity, it wouldn't resonate with me. It fell flat. It'd be like, okay, out of these 5 things, one of them actually sounds like me. So at this point, it's kind of a guess, right? It's a guess and a gamble. There's not really any evidence behind this. It's not really based on anything that I could consistently rely on. It's just kind of throwing an idea out there and see who believes this weird stuff, right? And so part of me was really intrigued, like, how could they really know this stuff? But then the other part was like, if I go down that route and I just explore it and I get in over my head, where is God in this? I don't see God. And if I can't see God, I'm not moving forward with this. I'm kind of stubborn in that regard. If I see God, I'm like, okay, I'm there with you. If I don't see God, I just kind of back up and say, okay, either not ever for me or not right now. I need to be able to see God so I know that it's good to put one foot in front of another going this direction. And so I told God, as this stuff came up and people started saying, oh, but it's really cool. Oh, but it's really accurate. I'm like, you know what? I'm giving it to God. And if God ever puts this back in my life, he's going to have to show up with an incredible teacher who follows Jesus Christ and understands things in a way that my somewhat critical mind will be able to pick apart and it still holds. And so I just logged it away. Every time something would come up, I just put it on a shelf. This isn't for me. If it's not for me right now or ever, I don't know. But for right now, it's not something I'm going to engage with. And so for a long time, it was like that until a friend of mine, she was like, let's just look this up. Let's just look up your birth information. I'm like, okay, just to humor you, fine. So she showed me a few things, and I'm like, the way you're explaining it to me actually makes a little bit of sense. But then I kind of just put it on the shelf because I didn't know where to go after that. Well, a few months later, I was listening to a video from somebody I follow, Ali Duzette, and she had a guest on her video whose name is Naomi Fox Reyna, and they were talking astrology. And I'm like, hold up, hold up. Both of these ladies are Christian. Both of these ladies have such a beautiful light with them, share so much beauty, and they're talking about astrology. So I'm like, huh. So I tuned in and listened. And then as I'm hearing Naomi speak, I hear God saying, that's your teacher. And I'm like, Okay, let's go. So I went to Naomi's website. It's lightfilled.co. Light and filled between the two words has a hyphen, lightfilled.co. And I went to her website and I just started exploring. She's got free stuff, she's got all these different things to just start exploring. So that's how I kind of got into human design. And it started to open up some really incredible aha moments for me, ways I've been able to understand who I am, because that's been a really big challenge for me. And we might even go into the why that's the case a little bit. Katie, I want you to share was your journey with this whole idea of human design?
All right, thanks, Nikki. Mine is pretty similar to yours. I grew up with the magazines that we had when we were kids, and they would have the zodiac and your astrology in there, and you'd read. And I'm a Capricorn by my birth date on the very first day of a Capricorn, and so I've always felt like, is this really me? Like, can this really be right? And I would read the same thing in the magazines, and I'm like, okay, whatever. This is so silly, and it just didn't either, right? Like, it didn't align with me. But Nikki, when you went through this journey and you heard from Naomi Fox Reyna, you came to me and you shared. And so I feel like we kind of embarked on this journey together, right? We kind of said, all right, well, let's explore. Let's see what this astrology world's all about. Let's see what this human design world's all about. And kind of, I just approached it with an open mind at that time. I think I will never discredit the coincidences because they're not. It's that it's God's divine timing of things. And so I feel like when all of this came together, it was the right time that the Lord was telling me that it was time to expand my mind, to open my mind to think about different things. We'd been taught our whole lives reading the Bible, and about the birth of Jesus Christ and how, the signs that were shown were from the heavens, and how there's multiple times throughout different scriptural contexts that talk about the placement of the stars and the alignment of the stars. And so when I started to put that through with these women that were these faithful Christian women, bringing in that light, it was this aha moment for me of finally like, oh, wait, this could be a missing piece that I'm so excited for. And so, Nikki, I'm so grateful that you pulled me along on this journey and opened these doors up for me because, I've lived my life kind of always feeling like I wasn't quite fitting the mold. Let's just jump right in, right? We talk about identity in some of our other episodes, and just really not feeling like I fully fit in, or that there was something different about me, and kind of questioning, like, am I supposed to be this way? Or trying to, I don't know, undercut myself of like, why am I so quirky? Or why is this different? Or why don't I fit like everyone else, right? Just those constant questions that I know everybody has in their mind. And so, Nikki, when you brought in these pieces of astrology, and quickly I could just put in all of my birth information, and the information that came back out that fed to me was so affirming of who I was, right? And to me, the biggest point is that my belief on human design specifically is based upon the time that I entered into this life on this earth. And when I studied, and we'll go into more about what we learn about ourselves, but when I studied that, it was just a confirmation to me that it wasn't by chance that I showed up exactly when God wanted me to. Like, he's given me human design, to me, is this overarching like layout of who I am, who I have the potential to be. It's not forced upon me. It's just this beautiful map of who I was created to be. And it's unique and individual to me, to the exact moment that I was supposed to be. It wasn't happenstance that people are born premature. It's not happenstance they come later in time. Like, there is an exact moment. And it just, I don't know, it burned in my heart that this is just another means in which God can communicate and help me know exactly who I am supposed to be. So, Nikki, thank you for sharing human design with me and opening this whole door for me. So, let's get in and let's talk a little bit about what this human design is all about.
Yeah. Well, and I also want to mention that when I first learned about essential oils, what really got me in was the frankincense and myrrh, because the Magi brought frankincense and myrrh to the Christ child. And so it was similar when human design or astrology crossed my plate in a way that I could understand it from this God, I see you perspective, because for me, all of a sudden it made sense why Abraham studied the stars. It made sense to me why the Magi knew based off of the stars and the planetary alignments and this new star that appeared in the sky, what it meant. They were astrologers, right? They knew stars. And it says in scripture that the stars and the planets are for times and seasons. And if we want to know the times and seasons, especially relating to when we showed up in this world, the exact date and time, we are born into the kingdom for such a time as this. If you can take it with that perspective written really clearly that God is showing up for you in your life in these powerful ways that human design can make sense of why you're showing up in the kingdom right now. It gives you a flavor of your gifts. It gives you a flavor of this is the type of situations that you should be thinking about or responding to, or this is how you should respond, or know if it's right for you. Because I think that some of us kind of give our free will to other people. We say, oh, my parents know better for me, right? So therefore, just going to blindly follow. Or this church leader knows best for me, and therefore I'm going to blindly follow. And I'm not saying those people are bad. We need them in our lives, but there comes a time where we can know intimately how we are meant to respond by the design that God gave us. And that's something I'm really excited to highlight. So, yeah, let's get in, Katie. Let's get into some of the meat and potatoes of this human design. And obviously, we're not going to be able to go into detail about every single aspect because that would take forever, literally years at least. But we're going to talk about some of these amazing highlights and ways that we've found more information about how to interpret our identity and our gifts and how we are meant to respond and navigate life. So, what do you want to talk about first, Katie?
Okay, Nikki and I are gonna kind of talk about how human design impacted us and not all the ins and outs and aspects of the design because everyone's different. There's different types. There's lots of terminology that human design has. And so I would love to just talk about a few things that I found out when I read my chart and did some studying as I've spent quite a few years studying and becoming certified to be able to read human design charts and help people find and understand what their charts mean because a chart can be confusing. Um, and it's really learning how to decipher that information and then apply it to to yourself. And so what I would love to do, Nikki, is to just take a couple moments and talk about a few things that when I learned about them on my chart, they really resonated with me and they kind of gave me the validation that I needed that I was okay. I was okay with being who I was, that those things that were quirky or different about me were actually unique about me. And it wasn't supposed to mold or try to be somebody else. I was supposed to come with all of these little quirks. So the first couple things about me are in human design, my type is a manifesting generator, which means that I create my own energy source when I am filled with satisfaction. So when I am doing things that bring satisfaction to my life, I can be just a complete energy source that just keeps rebuilding and rebuilding and I can keep going. I always like to talk about the Energizer Bunny and go back and date myself from way back in the day. But if you're from my generation, maybe you know, right? That with when we have the Bunny, he just keeps going and going and going. And so when I'm doing things that bring me fulfillment, bring me joy and satisfaction, it's this constant momentum that just keeps coming. Now that does not mean that I have this unknown wealth of source of energy. No, no, no. I can be completely lazy and dead tired and no motivation whatsoever, right? Those phases will come. But when I'm doing things that bring me joy, it just excites me more. But the other thing with a manifesting generator is that I'm kind of like a ping pong ball, let's say. I kind of pivot all over the place. I am not meant to be one that stays on course all the time. I'm one that can multitask. I'm one that get really distracted. The best way that I know how to do it is to say I'm trying to clean, let's say I'm cleaning my house, right? And I start in my bedroom and I'm cleaning my bedroom. Well, something needs to go out to the kitchen, so I go to the kitchen. Well, then I'm in the kitchen and then I find some things on the counter. So I'm working in the counter and I'm working in the kitchen. And then, oh, something that needs to go in the kitchen needs to go in the bathroom. So I'm in the bathroom and I'm working and I see in the bathroom, oh, this is cluttered, right? And so I start in the bathroom and I'm doing something in the bathroom. Okay. Now this might sound like a lot of people that say, oh yeah, I just get distracted, right? And I get off task. As a manifesting generator, what this means is that I actually, at the end of the day, will have accomplished all of those things. I will have gotten my bedroom cleaned. I will have whatever mess I may have started in the kitchen, I will have cleaned up and also in my bathroom, right? But it is not a straight line. I do not do it to the complete extent and then move on to the next task. I multitask and I move around wherever that energy is taking me, I go with it. So that also meant that in my life, I might just stop things because they don't bring me that joy and passion anymore. And that was a big thing for me because as a child, I had always been taught if you commit to something, you need to follow through, which is totally a very important aspect, right? But I also need to listen to what am I committing myself to? Am I committing something that brings me joy? Or am I committing it because it's something I'm obligated to do or other people
Yeah.
expect me to do? Or it'll please somebody else, right? Because it
Mhm.
won't bring me that joy and that satisfaction. And it is okay for me to acknowledge that something's no longer serving me and give myself permission to let it go. Now, that doesn't mean that I stop necessarily if I have a commitment and I just bail on somebody and say, sorry, see you later, right?
Mhm.
But it does mean that maybe if I'm in the process of learning something and it no longer fills me with joy, I just stop. And it's okay. I didn't let anybody down. I just no longer am pursuing that avenue. And it's okay. That was really important for me to learn because my whole life I had been taught I need to follow through, but I was living to other people's expectations and having to trudge through things that didn't bring me joy anymore. And learning and then allowing myself to understand that if things don't bring me joy, there's a time and a season, especially for manifesting generators, that it's okay to just stop. And
Felt it.
sometimes sometimes that stopping is like abrupt, right? And it's
Mhm.
not planned for. It's just really learning. Human design has taught me a lot about learning to listen to my body, not so much my mind or other people's thoughts or expectations, but listening to what actually how my body responds to things. So that's one thing with me, Nikki. What about you? How has it impacted you?
Well, there are so many things, so many beautiful ways I've seen it impact me. But as you were speaking, it reminded me of so I'm a generator, meaning I also have the Energizer Bunny circuit going on. And I love it because there's so many things that I want to create and do and accomplish. And so it's the most beautiful thing. But actually, before I started in human design, I had in my mind, my responsibility is to go decide what I want to do and go make it happen. And that is like, was the worst possible advice I could receive as a generator because with manifesting generators and generator, decide kind of what we want and then we wait for the right opportunity to come. Well, manifesting generators, they speak what they want and then wait for the right opportunity. Generators, we just, whether we know what we want or not, we wait for the right opportunity to respond. And so I burned myself out for years trying to make things happen that just were not happening because that is not my design. My design is God is putting something together awesome for me to play with and make amazing. I just need to wait for that to come open up. And if I try to force it to happen, it's not going to come up because I'm not in alignment with receiving exactly what it is that I was hoping to feel through the experience. I was focused on the exact thing that I wanted to accomplish in my mind. And that's totally different. And so understanding that about me has been very eye opening. And it's actually reduced stress in my life by at least 70% because I used to just go, go, go. And I felt like I was hitting my head against a wall all the time. Like maybe if I just run into the wall harder, it will work next time. No, no, no. Like, you decide what you want to feel, and then you let God open up the doors for you to experience that. And then you go through those doors, and it's easy. No more running into walls. And then you get to take those beautiful things that God has just put into your path, and you get to make them even more amazing. And you get to have so much joy in creating that amazing thing with these materials and opportunities you're responding to. So that was the first big thing for me. The second one was the nature of how to respond to invitations or respond to opportunities, respond to whatever the stimuli is. And that is that I have, and if you want to explore more about the details about yourself and what these different things we're saying mean, feel free to hop over to lightfield.co, and Naomi has a free mini course on human design. So check that out. It's a great introduction. But for me, when I thought that if an opportunity came up, then I better answer right away. Because if I don't, I'm going to let somebody down. They're not going to think I care. Or what if I miss the opportunity? What if it just goes away and I no longer have the opportunity to respond? And so I always thought, because I'm kind of a spontaneous person, I like spontaneity. I like fun and excitement. And so I just had this in my mind that if somebody poses an idea, that I should just respond if I'm excited about it, right? And if I'm not excited about it, then I'm like, okay, well, how much do I love this person? How much do I really feel like I'm obligated, kind of like Katie talked about, these obligations we feel like we have. And I would kind of like mull through those. Well, that is totally a sabotaging way for somebody who is an emotional responder to go about it. And what it means to be an emotional responder or to respond with my emotion center is that I am going to feel all the feelings about different decisions. The bigger the decision, the more feelings I have to just go through. And it's like this wave of I might hear of an opportunity and be a little apprehensive and then maybe excited and then maybe wonder how that's going to affect my family and scale back a little bit and go through all of the emotions. Well, how exciting would it be if I said yes? What would it feel like if I said no? And going through all these things, that was really important for me to understand because it really took off a whole bunch of stress for me to not have to decide right in the moment about every little thing. And it's been very liberating for me. It's actually given me more of my free will back because I did not realize beforehand how much I just gave away of my own free will, of my agency, of my choice that I was giving away just by saying, okay, I got to respond right now. So, because then, like Katie said, you have the obligation, right? We are honest people. If we say we're going to do something, we do it, right? And but what if you're an emotional responder? If you're an emotional responder, you don't want to respond, especially if it's a big deal in the moment. You want to let it just sit for a while. So, what I found is helpful for me now that I know this about myself. I have a daughter who is a splenic authority, which is different, and she's meant to make decisions right in the moment. I'm not. So, depending on your type, not everybody's an emotional responder. You might be, you might not be. There are multiple types. And Katie, she's got a different type too. But with this emotional, what I've found helpful is if somebody asks me to do something, they say, fill in for me at church. Like, will you just fill in for me at church? And I might say, absolutely, because I love to teach and I love to be with kids and I love to do all these things and light people up. And then there might be part of me that's like, well, what about this situation? You told this person you would be there for them. Or your husband asked if you would sit in with him or whatever it is, right? If I don't take time to think about what it is I truly desire out of it, then I'm going to regret it. So, what I've learned is when that opportunity comes up to say, let me check my calendar. And so, just saying, I'm going to check my calendar and get back to you is a really simple way. You're not telling a lie. You probably do have to check your calendar. But second of all, you also have to check in with yourself. And so that has been really helpful for me to be able to know that because I have brought my free will back to me. And so if I go through my entire wave and I say, "Oh, I still really want to do this. I still feel like this is in alignment for me," then absolutely I jump in and say yes. And there's no regret. There's no like, "Oh, I said yes, but now I have to figure out a way out of it, or I have to find a substitute, or I have to do all these different things because I wasn't thinking ahead." It's not about thinking, it's about feeling. And so that's the important aspect. So those 2 have probably reduced stress levels for me in an insane amount. I'll just say that.
I love it. I love it, Nikki. Well, and I just want to clarify what you were talking about was your emotional authority. You kept saying type. Our type is our manifesting generator and our generator. When you're looking at your human design, what Nikki was talking about was authority. So if you look up your chart, that's what you're going to want to look at. And authority is what she just talked about. It's what we use to be able to make all the decisions in our life, right? The big decisions is based upon that authority. So like Nikki
Thanks
said,
for
Nikki,
clarifying that.
yep, not a problem. I don't want to get confused on their charts. But what Nikki talked about with her emotional authority, she needs a moment to sit, right? And like she said with her daughter, and I have a son who has splenic authority, it's a one-time hit. They're told what it is, right? They have to learn. First of all, we all have to learn because it's not like it's actual audible that we hear. We have to learn how our body speaks to us. But splenic is just a one and done. You get it told one time and you need to learn. Respond. I have sacral authority, which means it's gut instinct. And so mine is different than Nikki's. Again, we both aren't supposed to really be in our heads. Nikki has to sit and ride out the emotional wave and feel all the feelings before she gets to a neutral spot of clarity. And then she can make her decision. I need to get out of my head, drop into my gut, and listen to what my gut instinct is, which was very um, eye-opening again for me too, right? Like in human design, there's like 9 different centers, and the head center is a pressure center, and mine is open. There are open, there's defined and undefined centers, and they mean a lot of different things. But when I learned that my head center and my root center are both pressure centers and they are both open, which means that I don't have a defined energy that's always accessible to me. It means I'm susceptible to the people that I'm around. And so when I learn these things, they're pressure centers, which means depending upon who I'm around, I will feel pressure from everyone around me what to do. So sometimes when I'm dependent upon just being in my mind, in my head to make decisions, I can get really confused because there's a lot of other voices, so to speak. Not like real voices, but a lot of other energies around me that can be confusing. And that's the beauty of human design is that it teaches us to drop into our body wherever our authority is and learn that and understand that to help us guide us in making the big decisions that are in alignment with us. So, my sacral authority is my gut instinct. I like to describe it as guttural. Mine is about making sounds or faces. And again, this was not anything new to me. When I learned this, I just thought, oh my gosh, I can be a very expressive person. My face actually can show instinctively what my feeling is. And that is my gut. The same with that guttural sound, right? We've been taught and conditioned to speak with words yes, no, um, right? But I've actually had to go back and decondition myself and allow my gut to actually come forward. And so for me, my authority is that split second first instinct of how does my gut respond? So for me, in my sacral authority, the best thing for me, Nikki laughs because she totally knows how this works for me. The best thing for me, if I need to know what to do, it's to ask yes and no questions, like rapid fire yes or no questions, right? Don't get into your head and think, well, I don't know. What does that sound? Nope, just yes or no, right? So my favorite example is, well, what do you want to eat tonight? I don't know. Like as a mom, that's like the worst question, right? What's for dinner? I don't know. Okay, you have to come up with it every single day, 365 days a year for how many years? Like, it's so insane. I don't know. There are so many options, right? So that's the answer. I don't know. But if you ask me, do you want spaghetti? No. Do you want Chinese food? No. Do you want pizza? No. Do you want tacos? Ooh, maybe, right? Like right then, if you were watching, sorry if you're not, but you could hear in my voice, the interest. If you were watching on screen, you would see my face actually changed and it pulled in, right? It's the same thing as if somebody asks me, "Do you wanna go on a trip?" Ooh, well, yeah, maybe, right? Or right, if it's the people aren't quite right, the environment's not quite right, my body is going to instinctively tell me. That is the sacral, is that gut. It's that instinct, it's that bringing back in the oohs, the ahs, the ugh, like all the noises, all the guttural sounds that, is not proper in this day and age. But it is teaching you how to listen to your body. So if you have a child that instinctively makes noises in those kind of sounds that tells you a response, I would highly encourage you to keep encouraging those sounds, because most likely they have a sacral authority that they need to be tuning into. Don't break that habit. Encourage that habit and encourage them to listen into that, to lead and to guide. So for me, yes, learning about this, like, I know how to be proper, guys. Don't be thinking I'm like just rude and, and weird. But I have to instinctively go through, because if I'm not on it and I'm not listening to my body, my mind might catch up and I might start overthinking. I might start, somebody says, "Oh, you want to go on a trip?" And I'm like, "Oh, that would be so fun." And then I'm thinking, "Wait, what about the travel plans? What about the kids? What about all of the things that become pressure and stress can take away from that instinct first of wait, 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 this is exciting, right?" And so for me, it's really been learning about let's get right to the body, stop in that moment, hold on to that excitement, and know that that's where we need to put the energy first, and then, come back to it. But that's my answer. And like Nikki, where she has to wait a little bit, right? So it's really an interesting aspect that gave me that validation of all the sounds that I made, why my face can be so expressive or not, because it's my body's instinct that's naturally telling me, yes, go for this, or
Yes.
hold back.
Yes, but I find it really beautiful with our relationship and our dynamics knowing this about each other. Because if I bring up an idea and you're not on board with it because of your gut instinct, then it's right for me to not push it because you've already got your answer, at least your answer for right now, right? Because sometimes I feel like we're like, "Oh, maybe I didn't explain enough." Maybe I need to explain more so she actually knows what I'm talking about. With people who have that sacral response, you just need to meet them where they are. No amount of guilt tripping and over explaining is going to make things better.
No, right, because well, it's the same thing. It's the same situation that if you were to accept something, if any of us are to accept something outside of our authority, what's going to happen is that when we show up, we're going to bring in that energy that isn't right for the whole dynamic, right? And that's the important part, is that even though we may show up because we felt like, well, we're trying to people please, we thought it was good in the moment or whatever. The problem is that our energy's off. It's not in alignment for who we are. And so now we've just disrupted the whole energy pattern of everyone else that's there. It really doesn't serve anybody at all, because then other people are walking on eggshells, or you're trying to pretend, right? And we know that that just doesn't bring the right vibe. So it is so important. Like you're saying, Nikki, how many times do we sit there and say, "But I really like this, so I want to convince you because I want you to be a part of it." But we're not gonna actually get the results we want because we're not allowing the other people to be authentic and true to who they are. So, yes, I
Exactly.
I love how this teaches us, right?
Yeah. Well, I love that you mentioned the part about being able to honor each other, first of all, if I can. Because growing up, I feel like we don't know each other's, right? We don't know each other's type. We don't know each other's energy. We kind of have to learn the hard way growing up. My sibling will respond to this or won't respond to this, or I can't get them to do what I want no matter what. And we kind of learn that way. But as adults, I think one of the best things we can do is know what is in alignment for ourselves. It doesn't matter if we know what's in alignment for other people. I think most importantly, it's good to know what's in alignment for how we are supposed to respond, because then we will give other people permission to respond. Because I can't tell you how many times that somebody has reached out to me for something and I've And I have just jumped in because I felt like that was what I should do as a disciple of Christ or as a sibling or as a daughter. And then it goes poorly for everybody. It actually gives us the opportunity to step in alignment in the right time, in the right place, in the right situation when we are all honoring our type. And how many disasters would I have avoided if I had simply known how to respond to my emotional authority and said, let me get back to you on that. Because a lot of times when I say that, somebody either cancels the plans and say, no, never mind, that's not happening anymore, or something else shifts. And now it makes more sense why I needed a reframe. But because I said yes, the other person is now trying to force it to happen. Right. And so I feel like one of the most responsible things we can do is to know what's in alignment for ourselves. And I want to also mention Katie right here. And maybe next time we can get a little bit into the kids. I would love to get into family and dynamics and friends and those inner associations. But I think we're wrapping up. So I'm thinking now would be a good time to talk about Katie and what she does. Like I said, she's a certified in human design. She has helped me make so much sense of my human design body graph, and she is very, very affordable to work with. So, if you are interested in meeting with somebody who's a Christian, who's 100% with Jesus, and who can help you make sense of your human design chart and help you make sense of how to respond, how to know things about yourself that helps you move forward with the least amount of resistance, the most amount of success and satisfaction, Katie is awesome. Everyone I've sent to Katie has loved Katie. They just love her. And I go to Katie all the time because she is just such a great go-to person for human design. She's very open. She is not going to hold an agenda for the session for you other than that she wants you to be able to see yourself more clearly. And I think this is oftentimes a little taste of how God sees us in this paradigm because he knows how we were created and our pattern. And so he often speaks to us through our pattern. And so if you are feeling like, hey, I might want to give this a shot, feel free to contact Katie. She has an email that she's sharing with us. It's human design with Katie, that's Katie at gmail.com. Human design is just like it sounds, human design with Katie at gmail.com. If you want to reach out to her, I think now would be the perfect time to figure out who you are, like at this next level. And as you do, you'll realize why certain things have worked out better for you than others. And it might be because it's how you're responding. So, Katie, thank you so much. Is there anything else that people listening should know when booking a session with you, contacting you for human design or anything like that?
Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, just reach out to me. I'm pretty casual. I love to do it over a Zoom call, a face to face, and just kind of get to know you, and just share some of the highlights of what human design has to offer you. It's just a real casual conversation that we just talk about and share some of the aspects in your chart. So yeah, I'd love to hear from any of you. I'd love to
Yes,
help.
and Katie is awesome. She likes to go deep and she uses her own intuition too to point things out. So if you have any specific questions, you could bring those, but really just come up ready to feast on this new awareness that God put into the sky for you. And if you know the exact time of birth, that's ideal, the date and time and the location you were born, that's going to be really, really awesome. So that you don't need a whole lot more than that. So most people have that information on their birth certificate. So just have that in hand and go meet with Katie. Like she's super easy to work with. She can get you in, she can get you on a Zoom call and just explore this together. And you do recording too, right? So
Yes.
they can have a recorded copy. So if anything sounds like a fire hose of information, you can go back and listen to it again. So thank you so much, Katie, for sharing. Next time, I'm really excited to dive in a little bit more with parenting and also interacting with friends. Like we talked about our dynamic, understanding each other's dynamic has allowed us to be better friends. And so whether it's a friction between you and a sibling, a parent, a child, this is going to be helpful just in so many ways. And understanding your own type and your own authority is going to help a lot with all dynamics and relationships within your life. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today, Katie, and for sharing this wealth of wisdom. And I'm so excited to explore more next time.